Obviously last week, big downside move, huge recovery to close out the week. We'll get into that when we look a little bit closer in terms of the smaller time frames, but the big picture remains the same. We are so far in premium. We haven't formed any imbalance, nothing suggesting lower for a prolonged period of time whatsoever. Just note that, with the move that we saw last week, a lot of names got abused, right? Just note that when we inevitably get some sort of higher time frame retracement, which might not seem like it's ever going to happen when you're running through highs, it's going to happen at some point. Just be aware of that, okay? We do have a monthly bullish imbalance, although last week's move prevented another new one from getting created, but we do have one at 24,158. If we were to say create a weekly imbalance this week, I would expect us to get into here. I wouldn't necessarily be looking for 50% right off the bat, just because, again, it would be a weekly imbalance to the downside while you still have that monthly untouched. I'm going to pivot. I'm going to be using the higher time frame to help influence decision making moving forward from there. All right, same sound happening again, so I don't know what's going on. But anyways, so to continue, we go over to the weekly. I think it is absolutely paramount that we go to 25,700 this week. That would prevent a weekly bearish fair value gap. At the moment, you will notice that with last week's close, following the sweep of that weekly liquidity, we did bounce and we did close back inside the weekly. We gapped up to start this week, so add that little level into the mix as well. So, from my perspective here, honestly, gun to my head, I think we're going higher again. I don't think anything's changed. Very, very similarly to what happened to start off October with that downside candle with an immediate gap higher and a pushback through all-time highs. So I am expecting it to go higher. There's still a lot of setups that I think are pretty good. Last week was a decent flush for a lot of them to kind of clean up on maybe some of our pretty shitty lows, gather some liquidity. And honestly, I'm thinking that we do end up pushing through the end of the year, start next year. The beginning of next year, I think that would probably line up with a 1 standard deviation move off of those previous all-time highs. I think that would be pretty interesting, as a location for a potential retracement or something like that. Typically, the beginning of the year does get a little rocky, and then you kind of clean up towards the middle and get into the end. So, or I should say maybe more of like an accumulation type situation where in the first quarter you are accumulating, maybe chopping around near that high. Then you get the manipulative move like we did this April, and then get that run through highs. So, that's kind of where I'm at. I don't think we're going down for a prolonged period of time yet. Tom Lee thinks Bitcoin's going to 150,000, and he thinks Ethereum's going to 15,000. So, I don't know about those numbers, but directionally, I think I agree with him, because the way that we closed out on Friday, to me, was an extremely important sign. Not losing these imbalances here on the weekly, to me, is very, very clutch. Now, as we proceed into smaller time frames, you will notice that technically we did shift structure from a daily perspective. But remember, although we got this daily shift, what is the relevance of this daily shift at all, if any? Because this daily shift essentially just brought you to sweep weekly liquidity and get into a bullish imbalance. In terms of the overarching range from a weekly perspective, that was just internal range liquidity. That is not shifting market structure on your weekly time frame. That is not really invalidating anything that we have seen here from a weekly perspective. So even though we did shift, I will say that inside these two bearish imbalances, number one at 729, that's a bearish volume imbalance, and the second at 25,880, those are definitely two areas where I will be a little hands off, because that is technically, this one more specifically, this would be considered our daily bearish showtime level, the final bearish level in the mix prior to another all-time high. So even beyond that sweep, I do have this imbalance in which we reclaimed, right? In addition to that, we also have this bullish breaker that bodies are respecting quite nicely. okay? I said it before, I'll say it again. The wicks give you the heart attack, but the bodies are telling you the story. Okay, the wicks are usually just a means to go gather liquidity, which we did in this case. So and then again, remember we do have this gap higher. So I'm pretty optimistic. Now, I was cautiously optimistic heading into the end of the week, and obviously we went down still. But with the way that we close, with the urgency that we close with, I am pretty optimistic that we will ultimately, eventually, this could take a little bit of time because you do have some levels to get through. But I think ultimately this is probably going to just be another straight shot through the all-time highs, and we can keep on rolling from that point. I'm just glad I caught a piece of this. This was outstanding. So a couple of things played into that idea for me, which I will get to at some point in this call. We'll also look at some individual names, but yeah, I'm gonna definitely keep it quick because I'm like mad tired and the light is giving me headaches right now. But anyways, from a 4-hour perspective, excellent. This really was one thing that did play a role. Now this is not as this is really not pretty. I mean, to be honest with you, the sweep of this low here that's good, but it's not like we had any imbalance here that was really sticking out and really kind of making me want to slap a trade on this or anything like that. But another thing is that we did technically have another breaker here. Okay, low, high, lower, low, break up and through. Now it was massive. Okay, that really was not the basis of the idea, but following this sweep, I noticed that we gapped down on this 4-hour. Okay, so when we gap down into discount, typically that leads to an order block being formed, which it did in this case again. So now we not only have this gap higher, but we do have a 4-hour imbalance in the process of being created. As long as over the next hour and 20 minutes, we do not go to 25.045, I think we're in really, really good shape to create that imbalance. Price retraces, even if it weren't. Let's just say, for example, we straight shot 25438 to open up tomorrow. We retrace back into this level. This would be an area that I would need to hold in order for price to push higher from this point. We have a ton of liquidity up at 25,893. That's ultimately the destination, and I would say that's probably a target for this week, maybe even next week. I think we need to get up here pretty quickly because, again, in order for us to prevent that weekly fair value gap from forming, we need to get to 700. Where would 700 put us from this point of view, right? That's going to put us over this level anyways. We would chase liquidity at that point. There's no imbalances in between at that 700 mark on smaller time frames. I think we just go get that liquidity then. And then if we retrace from there, so be it. But, again, we are kind of on like a little bit of a time trial here. We got to get to that 700 in the next 4 days and 21 hours, or that could suck. That could actually spark a little bit of a higher scale retracement, which, again, I know, I'd anticipate discount, and from a weekly perspective, that would be the game plan. But the problem is there is a monthly imbalance in the mix here. So I wouldn't want to completely neglect that level. That would just be used as a pivot or just a low hanging fruit objective if we were to form a bearish fair value gap, which again, I do not necessarily think we are going to. I actually think we got some fireworks, but 438 would be my first objective. That is an hourly buy side target. That gets you into the 4-hour imbalance. Got a bunch of hourly imbalances to pair with that 4-hour now. But ultimately, I think, again, really, really nice move off the lows. Like, this is the type of urgency you need in order to, like, kind of, put a stamp on some lows. When we were live, we were talking about it. We were like, all right, there's no sign of life. We're on Mars. Like, this thing is just bleeding out. Until we get some sort of imbalance, there's no interest from me. And then I think it was right around when I shut it down on Friday. That's when we formed the imbalance, and then we ended up getting into it. And then from that first imbalance, our expectation is what? 50%. That is the odd NAM model completion. Again, it works. If you're keeping score, just keep tallies because it's a pretty good model. Very, very effective. You guys should try it sometime. But yeah, first imbalance expectation is 50%. That was really the initial idea for the trade that I had taken. Again, following the higher time frame sweep, we had the gap down from the 4-hour perspective. We created that 15-minute imbalance, and then what kind of sealed the deal for me was the creation of an hourly, or I'm sorry, not even a creation of the hourly, but seeing the way that this hourly closed at 1 o'clock, knowing that we had the potential to create that first hourly imbalance above a previous bearish imbalance, which is what we would call like a mitigated fair value gap. Again, we got to create one, or we got to mitigate a bearish level. That's giving me some insight that we will ultimately gravitate up towards 50%. And just like we talked about from the 15-minute perspective, first imbalance forms, the expectation is what? 50% of our hourly range. There it is. And that would be the completion. All right. So that's NASDAQ. I don't think that there's anything different here from a S&P perspective. No, same story. S&P
Mando,
we
can I
need
ask a
60.
question really quick, if you don't mind? I know you said you're tired or whatever.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah, so there is some really sketchy hourly lows that I came up with that we left relative equal lows on all of them. None of them, I mean, I didn't look at RTY because I just don't value it too much because it kind of does its own thing 98% of the time, but all of them left relative equal lows with, let me point it out exactly which low it is. Give me a second. Okay, so it's gonna be Friday the 17th of October lows.
These.
Yes, all of them
Yeah.
left those lows, and they're very sketchy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just think it's for another time. We're eventually going to retrace into discount. I think for another time, that's probably going to be your likely location for discount anyways, right? Let's just see. If we go over to a weekly here and we do, let's just say, push this one more time. Let's say we get a perfect one standard deviation. That would still be in premium for the downside run to get you into discount eventually. So, yeah, I don't really think that we're going down from this point, to be completely honest with you. I don't like Bitcoin's low. I don't really like Nasdaq's low, to be honest with you. The way that we recovered from the low that we put in there with an imbalance to start this week
Yeah,
off.
typically when we do these four humongous green candles in a row, it typically means that we're green for a while. I've noticed, but
Yeah, that's a lot of urgency. Yeah, and it's not like we were creating these monstrous, like very volatile candles where it was very controlled. I mean, we created a bunch of imbalances in the process too. Um, to me,
yeah,
this is and we looked at Bitcoin. Bitcoin got to 98K, but it didn't get to the 98.24 to get into that. Now, I mean, can that be left behind? I'd say so. Ryan had brought up a good point that the futures ticker, actually, we got into the monthly imbalance on the futures ticker. But from this perspective, all this is, kind of seems like to me at least is like, let's just say we were to shoot this, and let's see Tom Lee is right, and we get up to 150. Now you got some pretty juicy lows down here to get you into discount of the range at another time. I'm sorry, it would be a weekly shift to get you that monthly discount. You know. So just, food for thought. I mean, look, we can go all the way back. We can go back to, 2022. We've left equal lows behind on NASDAQ before. We've left equal
yeah,
lows
but
behind on Bitcoin before.
all of them left it is what I'm. That's the schedule. If one of them took it, fine. S&P at the lows, rock it. But many, more often than not, at least one of the significant indices will take it. But like you said, maybe for another time.
Yeah, that's what I think it is, honestly. Let's see. I got YM taking that low. I posted this in the chat
YM didn't
also on
even
Friday.
get YM didn't even get close to it. So it's a low.
Previous week's
YM
low.
took another low, but that's like a low that was put in on, like, that's like a week later, maybe two. No, a week later, and it. But you do have weekly S&P with YM and NQ, which is good. YM
Mm,
didn't get as nearly as far down as the others did.
I just think the higher time frame's going to catch here. Untouched weekly, the way that we reclaimed it to close out of Friday, after a weekly sweep, gap higher to start the week. I think there's a lot of signs here that we're going to do exactly what we did the first week of October, where you order block into an untouched imbalance and then rock it again. Every one of these moves feels like it's the end of the world, but every time it's almost immediately snapped back. So yeah.
Yeah.
So that's indices, that's Bitcoin. I mean, look, not the most ideal. We are going to have a higher time frame retracement at some point. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's going to happen. It always happens, right? My whole philosophy or, ideology surrounding this is uh, I personally would prefer not to continuously get stopped out on these bearish moves or even have that bearish bias until we form a bearish imbalance in the opposing direction. The reason I say that is because if you were to go back historically, every time that we get a higher time frame retracement, it coincides with a bearish imbalance to the downside. So for me to try and, be slick and call the absolute top, all these people who are calling top over and over and over again, they sound cool in the moment, and then a week later they're stopped out of their position if they even took one, or maybe they took profits. Good for you, but you were wrong. You were calling for top. We're not at the top, okay? So that's the thing. To me, there's no reason for me to try and fade this. Not only am I going to get stopped out, but also I'm missing out on the opportunity to be a part of what could potentially shake out to be one of the best bull runs of all time. Already, from our lows at 16K, we're at one point we're up 10,000 points here. That's even bigger than what we saw from the initial price run, or pretty dang close to it. 10 to 22. So we were 12K in that run from 22 lows to the high prior to April. So, I mean, we're knocking on the door as one of the best runs that you could possibly get. So, anyways, gaps up across the board will also be a good thing. I'm sure you guys also had it, but there's like 50 alerts went off on Friday, so I'm sure a lot of names got down, swept some liquidity. If you open up with a gap, that's pretty encouraging moving forward here. But yeah, no, there's definitely places that I will be a little bit cautious, right? Those two daily levels I mentioned, the volume imbalance and the fair value gap, absolutely going to be a little bit cautious there. Really inside each of these imbalances, because this was really by no means a low resistance liquidity run. And we're chasing that level that I brought up about 15 minutes ago, or not even less than that, 10 minutes ago, 4538. But yeah, there's definitely going to be areas where I'm a little bit less, aggressive, I guess you could say. Just areas that I'm viewing as pivots. I actually used one on Friday, and it was here. Okay, so 15, 30, 45, an hour and 15, and then we finally busted it, right? We spent a lot of time in a premium imbalance. My expectation is that we would ultimately get up and through that, no problem. So that is, just another thing that we talk about in here, and just here's another example of it happening, because I think that's also something that's really important. You're never going to hear me talk about stuff that doesn't happen, right? So if you hear me say something, I really, really want you guys to just go back and back test and prove it to yourself, okay? We have done some previous live calls that you guys can just go back and I think there's one that's even titled like how to back test. Like, this is what you really need to do in order to believe in what you're doing, right? You could spend all the time in the world, learn how to chart, learn how to map imbalances, learn how to map and identify draws on liquidity. We're ripping, by the way. But at the end of the day, like, if you don't trust the concepts enough, you're not going to really feel comfortable taking like actual trades off of them. So you might be great with your analysis, but you're still going to be lacking in the execution department. So I think you really need to prove it to yourself. And I can show you this stuff all day. I could do these live calls, and that they always be like this, like, whole, oh, look, what did I say the other night? Like, oh, sounds great. Honestly, at a certain point, you got to say, all right, it's cool that he knows what he's doing and that he's getting all this shit right. It would be cooler if it was me. So buckle up a little bit, okay? Let's turn it up to close out the year so we can hit the ground and start seriously moving. in January. I think that should really be the goal for everybody. Build the confidence, believe in what you're doing. And again, if you don't see it, if this is not something you believe in, then this isn't the place for you. But I know it can be, and I know you probably know it can be too. And many of you guys know that. Many of you who have been here for a long, long time, you know that this could be the spot for you. You know you can get it done. It's just a matter of really putting in, what you might think is big work. That might be peanuts, right? You might need to 10x that. So, again, I usually just, throw that kind of stuff in there because it's just the truth, you know. Um, I hate to see it sometimes, but it's like, you get one red day after you're up like 8,000 points, and the whole casino's crying. It's like, are we kidding? It's kind of crazy. But I guess it is what it is. That's how this works. It's kind of poking at the emotions of everybody. But again, it's like, guys, we're up 8,000 points. When do you want to be a buyer? Realistically, when do you want to be a buyer? You want to be buyer on discounts. You don't want to be buyer in premium. We talk about this over and over again, right? Even if you are buyer in premium, you just need to either have a really well-defined trade idea with the setup. If it doesn't blow that up, then what's the problem? If it blows up the setup, you're out, right? And you should know, you can map out how much money you could potentially make or lose in a given scenario before you even enter the trade, right? I can reiterate this over and over again, but you still see that there's a little bit of crying all over the place on one red week mixed in with basic. How many red weeks have we had since April? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 weeks since April. April is the 4th month. We are now in the 11th month. 7 times 4, it's 32. So 22 green weeks to 10 red. I'm thinking that maybe it's a leverage issue. Maybe people are going a little too hot with some stuff, and that's why you're like, the world's over when you get one red week out of 22 straight. But it's okay. It is what it is. But you got to start to take account for this. You got to take notes. When you get into a swing trade, like, is swing trading for you? Can you handle that type of downside in a week, right? Realistically, you should be up quite a bit, so it's only eating into your profits, but still, can you handle that? If you can't, then swing trading might not be for you, right? You don't want to wake up to a potential bomb in the account, that it sucks. Trust me, I get it, but that's just kind of the name of the game with swing trading, right? If you buy into an idea, you buy into the concept, you got to let the trade play out the way that you had envisioned it to. And, if you can't do that, then you're going to be leaving some stacks on the table. It's going to drive you crazy because you're going to notice moves like this happen and then they get erased very quickly. And when they get erased like that and you stop out or something, or oh, I'm up a little bit, I'm going to take my profit here. You miss out on the whole idea because you don't really trust in what you're doing. That sucks. It's a tough pill to swallow. But anyways, all right, let's see. So that's basically all I got covered here for indices and Bitcoin. So does anybody have anything? If you do, post it in the chat. I saw a couple names were posted in the sidebar. We'll get to those right now. I'm gonna try and get these. I'm gonna try and get this video up like ASAP. But okay. So let me see. Yeah, excellent move right there. We got that buy side. I believe we did 38.50, and we got to 37. Now we didn't take this high yet. All right, so I expect that to happen any minute here. Okay, so path. Path is the first one that's being brought up right now. I'll do a quick scroll through my list if nobody's got any after this. I see Path has a monthly imbalance at $12. The lows aren't the most ideal in the world, but I think it looks okay. But you have first imbalance, excellent, and you actually held that previous buy side too. So, yeah, I think we're going to go into that monthly imbalance. I think that would be a good location. But until then, I'm really not all that interested in this one. I would need that higher time frame confluence for me. But that's path. MSTR is next. MSTR is really good. It swept all those monthly relative equal lows, got into a monthly discounted bullish imbalance. This looks real nice, okay? So the way that I would kind of go about MSTR would be Gap down into the turtle soup. That's real good as well. And I believe you had, yeah, you did. Candle close, candle open. There was a volume imbalance there as well. So MSTR gap down into a potential order block. So as long as this week closes above 264, you're in good shape. Come on over to the daily, and this is really what it would take from me from a daily perspective. So yes, even better. Okay, you formed a daily bearish level. Mitigate that bearish level, and at the very least, my expectation is that we'd go and get these relative equal highs to get into that 315.87. Where would that bearish level be? Yeah, and even beyond that, look how controlled this is to the downside. Got a couple volume imbalances, but I believe this one has been filled. Check. This one right here, candle close, candle open, good. And then, yeah, again. So this would be our next weekly spot. So to me, mitigating the daily would be great. If you even wanted to get a little tighter with that, you can go to the 4-hour. You can even go to a daily. We're about to form, or we did form a 4-hour bullish level. If you get an opportunity back in there, at least it gives you structure, right? That's the whole idea behind the Mando model or odd NAM model setup. It's giving you a well-defined trade. Stop loss at the low of the candle that created the imbalance. You have an imbalance. You have a buy-side draw. It's all laid out for you. Now you just calculate what the option looks like, how much money you can win, how much money you can lose. Is that make sense for the size of your account or for your mental, everybody's at a different spot. All of that is important, plays a role. I think using that as a good structural guide for you to determine where price is going to go next is key, right? And you need to get it out of your head. You're going to lose at some times, right? Your analysis is going to be wrong. Maybe we need one more low on this, right? It's going to happen. And this is why I'm really trying to echo the whole you need to be able to manage the risk so that you're not, crying in the club and in the chat. You don't want to be in that situation where you're worked up, period, right? And that can all be avoided. How? Just map it in advance. Just map the trade in advance. That's all you got to do. And you're going to take a lot of the emotional component out of it. Now, if you don't believe in the model or you haven't practiced it enough to believe in the model, then that's a problem, right? You maybe want to get to that point first before you do anything else. But okay, Oracle, sure. Let's see. You're welcome, Seeker. Oracle. Yeah, okay. So, believe it or not, Oracle, to me, from a monthly perspective, I know we got to 50% here, but, oh no, we didn't. We didn't even get to 50%. Honestly, for me, I would like to see Oracle go to 216.31. Maybe that's a little greedy, but let's see if that would make any sense here. Hold on. What was that number I just mentioned? Sorry, hold on. 216.31. Where does that line up? Would that be a sweep here? Yeah, it would be a sweep of these equal lows. It's not too bad. There is a breaker here at 197. Okay, so let's just put this, let's think about this, right? Just for me personally, this is not for me right now, but I'm thinking, is this an area where we could potentially bounce, right? Maybe into here. There's a weekly bearish for value gap. Or we even have a bearish volume imbalance here. And this be the situation. Maybe NASDAQ ran through the highs, but Oracle did not quite get there. Could we bounce from this location? I mean, from the weekly, yeah, you could definitely, you can make that argument. You have a weekly bullish volume imbalance. Closed pretty well on it. You bounce a little bit. You come on over here. I think it's decent, but this definitely does not meet my criteria. Daily, you have a little mini breaker as well. Yeah, I don't think this is too bad. I don't love these lows, and I think at some point it will go to discount of that weekly and monthly range. But in the meantime, if you do have somewhat of a bullish bias on indices, then it would kind of make sense for this to bounce a little bit first, right? And you could do the same thing. You could just basically map out, so high to low, discount retracement into a bearish imbalance. There's your flush down through lows. That is the Mando model completion number 1. Here's your second. High down to your low. Here's your discount retracement. Wicks give you the heart attack, bodies tell you the story, volume imbalance does not stop you out at the high of the candle that created the imbalance. There's your flush down through lows. That is the completion of the Mando model in this case. And now you have an absolutely enormous range, even from a daily perspective, which is good, right? Because what did we just say? Maybe we can bounce here. We have a bullish bias, right? We're talking about that. You bounce off of a daily breaker. You have a daily bullish volume imbalance there as well. You gap down into deep discount of a bullish price run from a daily perspective. You got a lot of things going on for you right now. Would I be envisioning this going to 345.72 from this point? Mando, this is the setup, isn't it? Wrong. What's the higher time frame context? You don't really have any. You didn't get down into the discount of that higher time frame, so you really aren't operating with any higher time frame context. Can you play this at the very least to odd nam? Yeah. Okay. How can you go about that? Use even smaller imbalance than this. Go to the hourly. Go to the 4 hour. Did it form anything? Not quite. Not quite yet. So I would want it to mitigate a bearish level or form a new bullish level. Okay. Here's your volume imbalance. Okay. You get through that, I think you're in pretty good shape for a discount retracement. You got some relative equal highs up here to 265. So I think this can be playable, but again, it's kind of step by step here, right? You can't run until you learn how to walk. You learn how to walk with the shift in market structure on an hourly time frame at 246.38. If you back tap that breaker, you're in business. That's the utmost confirmation in my opinion. Would be a move through 246.38, back tap into it, and then from there look to run it more. Okay. PRMB, PRMB, PRMB. Okay, yeah. Yeah, no. This looks pretty bad. Okay, so the run through these highs here on a monthly perspective look like this. Yeah, you're about to shift structure on this. I think this one's cooked. Let me look at yearly and quarterly, but I think this one's cooked. Into the yearly breaker, eh? Interesting. Yeah, honestly, I'm not really a huge fan of this one, but you are inside a yearly breaker. Uh Yeah, this one's not for me unless there's a quarterly imbalance that we're getting into right now. Let's see. Yeah, no, this one looks pretty bad. This one looks like it's going to go chase here. Not a fan here. Let's see. CoreWeave, CRWV. Okay. Yeah, I have a huge like this really would need to get down. Like I have an alert set at $64. I got no interest on this one unless it gets that deep. So yeah, that's just from a quarterly. As we go down the whole thing, CRWV. Can there be intermediate bounces? Absolutely. We've already had a few. Okay, here was the sweep of that monthly low. There was your bounce. Not much going on, though. This is not really showing me too much urgency to make its way back up. Newly IPO'd name. Not as much information all time on this. You do have a breaker and a bullish imbalance here. This week would technically be a setter. So in order to prevent a weekly imbalance from forming, you would need to go to 130.35. That seems pretty unlikely, but could you get a bounce this week? Is that the question? When we look at it from the higher time frame, I don't really have that higher time frame, context, but you did turtle soup on the daily, which got you into that weekly bullish imbalance and that weekly bullish breaker. I think this one's decent. Again, what would make me feel the most comfortable trading this? I like the gap down. Let's order block that. Let's mitigate a bearish level or make a new bullish one. And you could even use saying that, because look, you looked at that and you said, okay, well, it got into a higher time frame bullish level. Now what? Well, if you even from a smaller time frame, right? If that's giving you a bullish bias from your weekly or your daily, you can look for low hanging fruit objectives from an hourly perspective. It does earnings tomorrow. Of course it does. I'm personally not interested in CoreWeave whatsoever unless I get $64, which is way, way lower. And that's not me saying that it's going to happen. We're in discount. Anything goes, but this is not something I'm interested in unless it gets there. Oh boy. Seeker, he's here for the real analysis, okay? Okay, here's Mara. So Mara's got a lot of work cut out for it, okay? Right now we have monthly relative equal lows that get you down to 1448, okay? If you can close this monthly back inside this bullish imbalance here, nothing really changes, right? Remember, wicks give you the heart attack, bodies tell you the story. Nothing's really changed whatsoever inside of this setup, okay? So unfortunate, but that's kind of really all that's currently on the table for Mara at this point. If Bitcoin goes higher, I would hope that Mara would follow, but we've seen this before. We've seen this story before, I should say. JD looks okay. Did leave some pretty bad lows here, I will say that. That's down to 29.90. Now let me just see on some smaller if there's anything better. I see the volume imbalance. I just don't really like the low that much. I think when you look at this from like a wider lens, I think JD is going to go to 47.82 at some point. Do we take this low first or not? That's the question, and that would kind of be something that I would need to. I don't want to say wait for. I mean, you could technically structure this, but it would not be something that I'm all too interested in. Although, if you mitigate one bearish level, I think you could totally justify this getting somewhat of a run. But your daily bearish range looks something like that right now. So 33 gets you into odd and it's not really a big range. That's a problem. The higher time frame it is, but it just depends, I guess, how you really want to slice this. For me, like a situation like this, from a shares play perspective, I would not care. I would be adding in here. If we make one more low, so be it. As long as we don't take out the low of the candle that created the imbalance, I'm straight. I'm playing it fine. I'm accumulating shares within this discounted bullish imbalance. If we bounce from here, that's just less time for me to really accumulate. But if you're trading, you want to trade shorter dated stuff on this, the whole same thing applies. You really want to see an imbalance form in the opposing direction. When that imbalance forms, you want to see bullish order flow be respected. So we're still working on this pretty fat bearish fair value gap here. If you mitigate that, that means on a move through 32.34, you would shift market structure on an hourly time frame bullish, which would be a good sign on this one. So that's JD, and here's Neo. Dragon D's nuts. Okay. And Neo from an hourly. I mean, honestly, I think a couple months ago I said I'm never looking at Neo again because this just don't have interest, because this is just a name that people on FinTwit try and trade because they can't trade anything else. That's the crux of it. But anyways, Neo swept liquidity. For me, I would need a discount retracement on this. Nothing is implying that we necessarily need to go into discount of this bullish range, but that would be the only place I'd be interested in it, 560. Could we go higher from this point? You can make the argument. Just note your range looks like this from an hourly perspective, and this would be your showtime. You got multiple bearish levels overhead. I don't think this is going to be a smooth ride. Okay. Let's see. So that's those three. ONDS. Let's see. ONDS close but no cigar. I would want it inside this bullish imbalance at the very least. Do you have relative equal highs? Yeah, you do. You got relative equal highs up to 1170, so that's pretty good. I would want it to get into a monthly imbalance there. Let's see if it coincides with the weekly at any point. I think more specifically, I'd say probably here I would be more interested. That's a weekly volume imbalance that lines up. You already got into that, so that's good. Yeah, this would really be the spot for me, and any lower I would really not be all that happy, but I think this one's decent. It's almost where I would like it personally. So, Poet, sure, Poet. Let's see. Poet. Okay, so shift here. You're really struggling over that buy side. This is a breaker now, though. That's okay. I don't like the lows that we put out on the monthly. Let's see this. Hold on. We did. I got to be honest. This one I would kind of just want it to go. It's not my setup, but this is one that it's kind of just got to go. Let's see. But then I look from the weekly. I at this point I think this would make the most sense. Sweep of these lows from here. This would really be a do or die weekly fair value gap. I wouldn't want it to slip that. But there's your first run. There's your second run. That's your turtle soup. Here's your next run. We would, yeah, this would really have to turtle soup. So it would have to be something like this where sweep lows, get into that imbalance, and then don't go below 388. That would be the only thing I would be interested on for this. Ion Q. Alright, let's see. Ion Q. Very nice. Hit discount. Not bad. One issue with this is... Oh, it's not even an issue. No, okay. Alright, this one's alright. New highs. Got your discount. Not bad. The only problem I say with this one is that the imbalance is pretty big. So, like... you are kind of dealing with a pretty big risk from a weekly perspective. If you go down into smaller time frames, and not this, that's not to say that this is a bad setup. It's just a pretty, like, look at the amount of points. It's 55, and we're at 59. It's like 20 points at this point. That's the only problem. You do have a bearish level, but with that bearish level being formed, you already got discount. So could you slow down in that? Yes. But do I think that that's the ultimate rejector? Probably not. Just going to take some time, I think, if anything. So this looks pretty good. Order block on the daily. Let's go over here. 4 hour, pretty good. 4 hour imbalance formed. Yeah, so I mean, if you have a bullish bias on this, I think you could be bullish until this weekly imbalance, and then from there you just wouldn't want to slip up on any bullish levels. That's all. To get the ultimate completion, it's probably going to take a really, really long time. That's all. So that's Ion Q. Jeff. Okay. Nah, not quite. I think this one's cooked. Okay. So we got to balance. We're respecting bearish order flow. You don't have any bullish level here. That's would be my problem with this one. And that's a pretty big problem. Let's see. The quarterly doesn't look nearly as bad, but the problem is where it's catching from right now after that rejection. It's really not that convincing. That's the problem. I don't see anything here. I guess you could make this. This is not for me, but there is a bullish volume imbalance there. You wouldn't want this to create a bearish monthly fair value gap here. So you'd need to kind of turn the jets on, get an 8-point move in the next 18 days and 16 hours in order to prevent that. This is okay. See these relative equal lows though? Not for me, but I guess, you can map this. It has structure, so I guess that's half the battle. But BBAI monthly, yeah, I think BBAI is fine. Okay, we're just hanging around, sticking inside of this monthly imbalance. This one you'd really want to go soon, like can't really spend too much time inside this level or you're in trouble. Hold on by the skin of its teeth. Right here. There you go. Good. Not bad so far. Good start. NMG monthly. Nice. Monthly bullish fair value gap. Very good. Nice. Some pretty bad lows, but at least you have this fair value gap here, so it's not just air. That's good. It's good. Did you sweep all-time lows? No, you didn't. Ugh. Nah, I'm out on this. And sneaky little split there. Garbage. Out. Setup looked fine until then. I mean, look, maybe you chased this, but I'm not really too interested in this. Let's see. Earnings on Monday. Panic ensues. Must consult the Dragon Balls. Yep. Yeah, they're always recorded. Alright. So, Apple. Let's look at Apple. Enjoy the celebration, though. That sounds cool. Alright. There's Apple range continues to expand. This is very, very much so in premium of this range on the all-time. All the levels got a little messy, but same thing applies. You have a massive range on Apple. So I mean, being that high in premium, to me, the only thing I would be looking at would be like some sort of smaller time frame stuff. Even the weekly, nothing implying lower. Go to the daily. Whoops. Okay, let me charge this. Even the daily. I mean, the relative equal lows look pretty enticing, but probably going to gap up. That's the thing. So that would be the only place that I would want it, though. Sweep the lows at 166.30, and then from there, I guess. But this is not something I would trade. Just to be fair. And I see what you guys. This is like this is a big recurring theme I think throughout the group, which is not a problem because you are seeing good. You're seeing good setups for the time frame that you're looking on. You just got to be aware of that higher time frame. That is the missing ingredient. You saw that guy commented on one of my posts and he's like, "Yeah, now I've mastered it." I'm like, "Bro, you don't even know the most important component to it. What that most important component is having that higher time frame bias, meaning you can get a pretty good indication as to where price is going from higher time frames, which will help structure the smaller ideas or like kind of bolster them, right? Because if you're going to a certain price from a higher time frame, the smaller time frame is basically just an entry model for a smaller dated trade. Like that's the way you really could look at it. So that's very important. Everybody, I feel like when they send me charts and stuff, they're like, "Can you look at this?" It's always like a daily. I'm like, "Yo, how's the weekly? How's the monthly?" I don't know. But with Apple, it's very similar to NASDAQ. You're so far in premium, everything you'd be trading would be smaller time frame. Just a little lower probability, that's all. But same would apply. Yeah, what's suspect is that you didn't have my back the other day. Don't worry, I'll remember that. Duolingo monthly if you can, sure. Let's see. Yeah, so Duolingo would really have to close this monthly back inside 215.24. This is one where it's like it's extremely difficult to to justify this one. I don't know exactly like I don't know if I would want to be like an investor on Duolingo per se, but this one, if it closes back inside here, I think you got a shot at the very least inside that fair value gap more specifically. There are some pretty bad lows. Despite this monthly breaker, you already got in it and you left it, and now you formed a high, low, higher, high breakdown and through. So that was a bearish breaker. Not that good. Okay, and it's important to note we didn't close below, so the breaker's not formed. We didn't close below, the breaker wasn't formed. We're going to close below, so even the first attempt back in here might be a little bit of a headache if we were to ever even get up from this point. So Just keep that in mind. Penny stock, nice. Yep, no problem, man. I'm ripping through these. Crickets, you can't hear me? No, you can hear. I see the mic going off. Let's see. Yeah. Ugh. Gross. Yeah, yeah, okay. Okay. AR if you have time, sure. Anything for you, Slick. Alright, let's see. I think Ryan liked this one, right? Yeah, see here, yo, like this is a good setup. I'm not saying that it's not, but note this: when you deal with something that's like related to commodities and it's an individual name, like it's just not as clean. Like this didn't form an imbalance. This left relative equal lows. You got into the imbalance here. You respect it, but like I feel like it always does this on just names that are like oil, gas, gold, silver, like miners like that. Like any of those names, it's so weird. They just tend to like not make the best, most clean uh, setups. But from a monthly, I think the draw is $48. But let's just see the smaller time frame because that monthly didn't really have a clean bullish. Oh, nice. Yeah, this one looks pretty good. Nice snap there. So now I'd want to see smaller time frame urgency. Got into a higher time frame bullish level. Nice. You're moving pretty well now. You close above that. Yep, you closed above it and then you bounced off of it. That would be your breaker. So the first buy side draw really would be 35. You clear 35, you're going to create a couple new breakers and then yeah, but I think directional bias, if you are bullish on this one, I think you're in pretty good shape. So yep, no problem, man. Saka la luz. I don't know what that is. Thoughts on Tesla? All right. I think Tesla is going to all-time highs. But my question would be, it's not really so much a question, honestly. Just as an outsider, I think the only way I would actually get in would be on a move into the monthly imbalance. But I don't think we're going to get there. I think we're going to go to all-time highs, to be honest. Let's see. Decent hold, not great. I mean, this is one of the few that really didn't recover well. I think it's up 2.5%. That probably puts you back inside this weekly volume imbalance, and then you could probably order block this higher through 488. That's probably what's going to happen. So, yeah, I think it would have. For me as an outsider, I probably would only be interested here. Now I have shares on this, but I'm not moving those anyways. But like as an options guy looking maybe for like a bigger type of play, that would be the idea. And if we don't get it, it's okay. But I think I saw something about it being up quite a bit in the overnight. Did get into an imbalance here, bullish, and you did sweep liquidity in the opposing direction of your trend, and you got relative equal highs. So I think you could totally justify this one going higher. Structured, I mean, not really, no. Structure's kind of like big, honestly. Like the low of this candle would be the risk. That's like, $20 away. It's too big for me. I would not do that on an option short dated. Um, You're gonna gap higher, so you're gonna respect this 429. You're probably gonna chase up into here. And you hit 50%. I wonder if this holds overnight. Not so much the overarching. I'm talking more specifically Tesla here. And even the overarching, we hit that buy side on the hourly. We could totally retrace a little bit. I'm just curious on this one. But I think it would be a good opportunity if it got us in here. But again, I'm not so sure. Um, turn on the light. What's nerve-wracking? Lifer. Slick for life. It's all good. No, I know you're grinding, man. Bullish on it. Nice, man. Yeah, I think you're going to be right on that one. But all right. So I'm not so sure. Again, right now we're closed. Even if we get news on the government, right? I again don't really care at all, to be honest. But now we're gonna get some data, so uh, even I would need some to find somewhere someone confirm that we are gonna get data this week. And because this week we could have some big Monday, no red folder, looks kind of shitty. Tuesday, no red folder and a bank holiday, pretty shitty. Wednesday, not much of anything. We have bonds at 1 o'clock on Wednesday. That's about it. And then Thursday, you have the CPI. And then Friday, you have PPI. If the government is back on for those, I would expect those to be pretty aggressive, because the early part of this week looks like it's going to be pretty shitty. I'm not going to lie. Just in terms of no data. Obviously, there's no data. The government shut down. But if it comes back, let's say even if they say, boom, we're good tonight, government's back on, we still don't have anything scheduled until Thursday, unless they backlog some stuff. So, but I doubt it. But anyways, all right, let me come back over here and let's just make sure. Yeah, Bitcoin left horrible lows. Yeah, we said that in the beginning. Yeah. Yeah, Seeker, I saw that. I know. I know. I know. I know. I don't think. I mean, I don't know. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? But anyways, all right. That's it. If anybody has any questions or anything, feel free to reach out. I'll talk to everybody later.